Yo, what's up? Dr. Swole here, MD, pro physique athlete. Today I'm going to be sharing a 5-day hypertrophy program based on a new split that I've invented called the Dr. Swole Arnold split. This is a hybrid split that combines the Dr. Swole split with the Arnold split into a 5-day setup. This is a moderate volume program which could work for a late beginner and onward. There are a couple more popular splits in the science-based bodybuilding sphere, particularly upper, lower, and push-pull legs. However, these don't particularly fit well into a 5-day program. I'm really excited to be sharing this split setup with you because it solves a lot of the problems of these more traditional popular splits. Okay, let's introduce this split first. It's a 5-day setup and it contains a 2-day split, which is the Dr. Swole split, and then a 3-day Arnold split segment. The Dr. Swole split is as follows. It divides the body into 2 days. You have quads, chest, back, and calves, and on day 2 you have glutes, hamstrings, shoulders, and arms, biceps, and triceps. And you'll see that this is basically a combination of the push-pull and the Arnold split combined into a 2-day format. You can see the push-pull component in our leg training. So basically it divides up your leg training into more push-oriented movements like with quads and calves, and more pull-type movements like hip hinges which train the glutes and hamstring. Then it divides the upper body in a more Arnold-esque way. So chest and back go together, and then shoulders and arms go together on day 2. I came up with this setup when I started out in bodybuilding early on, and I found it worked really well. Now let's talk about the Arnold split aspect of this program. So the Arnold split is traditionally set up like this: chest and back day, shoulders and arms, and leg day. As you can see, it's a 3-day setup, so it works well for 6 days per week. We're going to be combining these two splits into a unique program today. Okay, we'll start off with a program walkthrough where I'll share everything you'll need to know to run the program yourself, including exercises, sets, and reps. After that, we'll talk about the weekly setup, or how to spread out the workouts across the week. And finally, we'll talk about the pros and cons of this Dr. Swole Arnold split setup. All right, let's do our program walkthrough. So this is the Dr. Swole Arnold split program. It's a moderate volume program designed for late beginners and onwards. We've got quads, chest, back, and calf day, glutes, hamstrings, shoulders, and arms, chest and back day, leg day, and shoulders and arms. Here are the exercises, and there are the sets and reps. Down here are the total number of sets for each workout so you have an idea of workout length, and here are the total number of weekly sets for each muscle group. Let's talk about our first day here: quads, chest, back, and calves. We start off with bench press for the chest, 3 sets, and we're using a top set back off method here. So you're going to warm up to 1 top heavy set of 3 to 8 reps, followed by 2 back off sets with slightly lighter weight of 5 to 10 reps. I really like the top set back off method for bringing in some strength work and combining it with some volume for hypertrophy. It's also a very simple strategy that's easy to adopt. Next, we have squats for the quads, and this also uses a top set back off method. 3 sets here, 1 top heavy set of 3 to 8 reps, followed by 2 back off sets of 5 to 10 reps. After that, we have leg extensions for the quads, 3 sets of 10 to 15, followed by lat pull downs for the back, 3 sets of 6 to 10. Then we have chest supported rows, also for the back, 3 sets of 8 to 12, and finally machine calf raises. And here I'm using a myo-rep scheme. You'll warm up to 1 main set of 10 to 15 reps, followed by 7 mini sets of 3 to 5 reps, and here you're taking about 10 seconds of rest in between all of these. I'm equating this to approximately 5 straight sets. The idea with this kind of rest pause setup is that you're staying pretty close to failure, and you're getting very efficient use out of all of those mini sets. Moving on to our second day, which is glutes, hamstrings, shoulders, and arms. We start off with Romanian deadlifts for the glutes and hamstrings, 2 sets. And again, we're going to use a top set back off method here. So 1 top heavy set of 6 to 10 reps, followed by a back off set with about 10% off the bar using the same number of reps. Then we have barbell hip thrusts for the glutes and hamstrings, but mainly the glutes, 3 sets of 6 to 10 reps. Notice here that on day 2, I particularly chose glute and hamstring movements, which are more posterior chain dominant. This way, even if your quads are sore from doing squats the day before, it won't interfere with your performance. Then we have lying bicep curls for the biceps, 3 sets of 6 to 10, and you'll be lying with your back flat on the bench for these. After that, we have dumbbell skull crushers for the triceps, 4 sets of 8 to 12. You can superset these 2 dumbbell movements on the bench. After that, we have machine curls for the biceps, 2 sets of 8 to 12. And I'll let you choose whatever machine variation you like here. Then cable upright rows for the side delts, 3 sets of 8 to 12. These also hit the traps. And finally, machine lower raises, also for the side delts, 2 sets of 8 to 12. Moving on, we have our chest and back day. Now we're getting to the Arnold split segment of the program. We start off with Meadows rows for the back. These are like a standing single arm landmine row. They're a nice way to really overload a single arm movement. And they're a great graduation step after single arm dumbbell rows when the dumbbells in your gym get too light. Next, we have incline bench press for the chest, 3 sets of 6 to 10 reps. Following that, machine bench press also for the chest, 2 sets of 10 to 15. Then we have straight arm pull downs for the back, 4 sets of 10 to 15. machine flies for the chest, 2 sets of 10 to 15, and finally cable ladder raises for the side delts, 3 sets of 12 to 20. And notice that side delts didn't necessarily fit into the chest and back day of our Arnold split segment here, but as you guys know, I always make modifications to make splits better. Okay, let's go on to leg day here. We start off with deadlifts for the glutes and hamstrings, 2 sets, and we're using a top set back off method here, so 1 top heavy set of 5 to 8 reps, followed by 1 back off set with about 10% off the bar. Then we have leg press for the quads, 5 sets of 8 to 12, and while you're on the leg press machine, you can superset these with calf raises for the calves. Again, we're using a mile rep scheme here, 1 main set of 8 to 12 reps, followed by 7 mini sets of 3 to 5 reps. Going on, we're gonna have some Smith machine single leg squats for the quads and glutes and hamstrings, 3 sets of 8 to 12. These are like a standing lunge in the Smith machine. And finally, we have leg curls for the hamstrings, 2 sets of 10 to 15. Going on here, we have our shoulder and arm day. We start off with barbell overhead press, 3 sets, and we're using a top set back off method here, so you'll warm up to 1 top heavy set of 5 to 8 reps, followed by 2 back off sets of 5 to 8 reps. Notice here that I saved my heavy overhead press for this shoulder and arm day, and not on this other shoulder day here, which is combined with glutes, hamstrings, and arms. And the reason is we have the bench press on the day before this one. This shoulder and arm day is really nice here because it's isolated from our other pushing days by this leg day here, and as you'll see, a rest day after. This kind of setup is actually really powerful for giving some accessory pressing movement priority. Then we have hammer curls for the biceps, 2 sets of 8 to 12. You can superset these with overhead presses if you'd like. And then weighted dips for the chest and triceps, 3 sets, and we're using a top set back off method here, 1 top heavy set of 6 to 10 reps, followed by 2 back off sets. Next, we have cable press downs for the triceps, 3 sets of 10 to 15, and you can superset these on the cable stack with curls, 3 sets of 10 to 15 for the biceps. While we're still on the cable machine, we'll finish off with some upright rows for the side delts, 3 sets of 10 to 15. And finally, we have machine ladder raises, also for the side delts, 3 sets of 12 to 20. If you guys have been getting value from my videos, make sure you hit subscribe. I am the king of free hypertrophy programming on YouTube, and your support really helps me to put out high quality free content. Okay, let's talk about the layout of my Dr. Swole Arnold hybrid split. I'm really excited to be sharing this split with you because it combines a few different split setups in a way that gives you some unique advantages. Okay, so here's the split: quads, chest, back, and calves, glutes, hamstrings, shoulders, and arms. Then we have a rest day, chest and back day, leg day, shoulders and arms, and rest. Here you'll see that we're combining the Dr. Swole split with the Arnold split. Couple of things to note here. First of all, I've actually changed the order of the traditional Arnold split. As written, it used to be chest and back, shoulders and arms, and then legs, but I swapped our shoulder and arm and leg day. This allows us to separate our shoulder training from chest training. One of the most common criticisms of the Arnold split is that you have shoulders coming right after chest, and if you're doing overhead pressing on your shoulder day, you might not perform as well if you're still sore from chest day. This is a particularly nice modification that you're able to make here. And you can do this particularly well here because it's a 5-day setup, which means we have 2 rest days to play with. In a 6-day Arnold split, you would have chest and back coming the day after this shoulder and arm day, so you'd still run into the same problem in the middle of the week. But with a 5-day setup, we can separate shoulders and arms and chest day, and this also gives us a higher frequency of shoulder and arm training. Note that the arms get trained indirectly with our chest and back training, so the arms are actually getting trained 4 times per week. Also, as you saw, I placed a little bit of side delt work on this chest and back day, and this also allows us to train our shoulders with a higher frequency of 3 times per week. Now, one of the big problems with a lot of 5-day splits out there is that often a certain muscle group's training gets bunched up at one part of the week. For example, theoretically, if we put all of our back training on this day and then also on this day, you also want to think about splitting up your muscle group's training as evenly as possible throughout the week. Notice that this happens very nicely in this program. Our leg training comes on Monday and Tuesday and is split up by a couple of rest days before we train legs again on Friday. After that other leg day, we have another 2 days before we train legs again. The chest and back is nicely split up throughout the week, and direct shoulder and arm training is also split up. I think this is a very elegant split setup for this reason, and you can see why this works, because the Dr. Swole split, which comes at the beginning, is actually a derivative of the Arnold split. Remember that we use the Arnold split in the upper body section of this split. So basically for the upper body, you have your chest and back and then shoulder and arm training coming after that. This order gets preserved later in the week where we have our chest and back training followed by shoulder and arm training later. So this combination is actually superior to other combinations. For example, if you tried to combine the Arnold split with upper lower, which I have shown in previous videos, if your upper body day came here, your direct shoulder and arm training would actually get bunched up in the week. Okay, now let's talk about the pros and cons of this Dr. Swole Arnold program. First of all, starting with the pros, you get to train your shoulders and arms when they're fresh. This happens in both the Dr. Swole split and in the Arnold split segments of this program. In the Dr. Swole split segment, you'll see that shoulders and arms get shuffled off of chest and back training. And in the Arnold split later in the week, shoulders and arms get their own day. I really like this kind of setup. In a lot of traditional splits like upper, lower, and push-pull legs, your shoulders and arms get trained after your main chest and back pressing and pulling movements. Thus, these small muscle groups are often fatigued by the time you get to them for their direct work. If you train them when they're fresh, you'll be able to lift more weight for more reps. Next, this split gives you a higher frequency for your chest, shoulders, and arms. With a few tweaks in our exercise selection, you saw that chest was getting trained 3 times per week, particularly when you use a tricep movement that also has a lot of chest involvement, like weighted dips on that shoulder and arm day. And I also explained how the shoulders and arms get a higher 3 and 4 times per week frequency. I really like this because it evens out the stress across the week a little bit and will allow you to increase your volumes later if needed. Next, this split divides up some of your leg training. With most of the 5 and 6 day splits out there, for example, push-pull legs upper lower, and then for 6 days per week, push-pull legs and the Arnold split, you'll typically end up having 2 leg days per week. These tend to be by far the toughest days in your week. The Dr. Swole split divides up your leg training over 2 days. So in this 5-day set, we actually have 3 days where our leg training is spread across. I really like this from a fatigue distribution standpoint. Next, this program gives you some priority for your accessory programming. As you saw, we can use that lone shoulder and arm day to place our heavy accessory presses, like overhead presses, close grip bench presses, or weighted dips. And as you saw, this worked particularly well in this split since shoulder and arms are separated from our other chest and back days. And you'll see that this worked particularly well in this setup because our shoulder and arm day was split up from our other chest training. Okay, now let's talk about the cons of the Dr. Swole Arnold split. In the Dr. Swole split segment earlier in the week, you saw that quads and glutes and hamstrings come back to back. This could potentially be an issue if you have really sore quads going into glute and hamstring training the next day. However, you'll see that I've started this because I've actually mitigated this problem through exercise selection. By choosing glute and hamstring movements that don't use very much of the quads in them, you shouldn't have a problem having these days back to back. If, for example, you were using sumo deadlifts for your glutes and hamstrings, it wouldn't be the best idea to put them on the day after squats. But here, RDL and hip thrusts don't use quads very much. Next, you'll also see in the Dr. Swole segment of the program that shoulders come right after chest. This one, however, I've also addressed. The main concern with having shoulder and chest training coming back to back in the week is that you're going to have a heavy overhead press and a bench press clashing. This, however, isn't a big deal in this program because I've moved our overhead pressing onto the second Arnold split segment in the week. So for our day 2, which was glutes, hamstrings, shoulders, and arms in this program, for our shoulder training, we really just had side delt work with upright roses and lateral raises. So even if you had a sore chest from the day before, it's not going to be a problem. Let me know what you guys think of this split in the comments below, guys. I actually think this is going to be one of the best possible setups for 5 days per week. And I will be sharing the full program as laid out in my Facebook group. So if you haven't joined the program already, find the link in the description below, join the group, and you can download the program for free. If you want to learn more about the pure Dr. Swole split, check out this video where I explain a 4-day program, which is basically how I used this split in the past. I think this is a really underrated split setup. You just have to be a little bit careful with your exercise selection as you saw here. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for more top-notch hypertrophy programming, and we'll see you next time.